Get a few more. All right, a few more seconds, and then I'm gonna kind of go into it. All right. Okay. It looks like I have one response here. Okay. All right. So Juneteenth. All right. So the president just made this a federal holiday. Um, so a federal holiday usually when we have a federal holiday, a lot of the federal buildings are closed, or sometimes schools will decide to close. But with this particular holiday, a lot of people don't really know about Juneteenth. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but just kind of going to hit the surface. Um, so Juneteenth history facts. So any idea what that is? Yeah. All right. So we're talking about slavery. Okay. So the Emancipation Proclamation, it was issued by President Abraham Lincoln in January 1st, 1863. And so, what the Emancipation Proclamation was supposed to do is to free all the slaves, right? Slavery was a very um, rough, beyond rough, horrible, horrific time in American history. But it is a part of our history, and we need to acknowledge and learn about it. Um, so, with President Lincoln issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, a lot of the slaves they became free, but not all of them became free, right? So the South had a lot of resistance to freeing all the slaves. Because the slave owners, they're just like, wait a minute, I paid for the slaves, which were considered property or chattel, okay? And they said, no, I'm not letting it go, right? I'm not letting the slaves go. So finally, in June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years later, um, the Union soldiers sailed into Galveston, Texas, and announced the end to the Civil War. All right, so the Civil War had started in 1861, and so the end was 1865. When Texas announced the end of the Civil War and took control of the state and ensured people were free. The year after the 13th Amendment passage, Congress used this power to pass the nation's first Civil Rights Bill. The Civil Rights Bill of 1866, the law invalidated the so called black codes, those laws that put into place in the former Confederate states that govern the behavior of black people, effectively keeping them dependent on their former owners. So when the slaves were released, they're like, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, every day that you wake up, somebody's telling you what to do. You do know how to grow, different foods or whatever, but it's not your land. So they get all this freedom, but it's like, where do I go now? So some slaves end up staying on the property or sharecropping, which basically means you work on the land. In most instances, they attempt to try to pay for the land, but they usually don't. There were instances where um, one of the landowners might give them some land, maybe in a will if they've been with the family for a long time. But yeah, so I didn't. I don't want to go too far into it. So, what do you think Juneteenth? Oh, okay. I do have a Uh, Tyler says the holiday celebrated on June 19th to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S. The holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where that day in 18, 1865. All right, after um the Civil War. Okay, yeah. All right. So I'm gonna read a few more. So Opal Lee is known for the mother of Juneteenth and is a driving force behind making Juneteenth a national holiday. Was born in 1926. Lee is a retired teacher and counselor who spent decades working in the Texas schools. Um, her efforts to her efforts to get Congress to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday have been successful. Right. And so I guess I mean, people are starting to learn more about it, and it's going to take time, but just make sure each year you try to learn a little bit more, a little bit more, and also just study. I mean, African American history is American history, right? But in any event, I didn't bore you guys too bad. But yeah, I just wanted to go over that just a little bit. All right, thank you for joining. Let me know if you have any feedback. Bye.